Hello and welcome. I'm Ishani here, and thank you so much for stopping by for this month's technique for a lovely card hop where some of us card makers are sharing loads of inspiration with embossing powder and pastes with the winter theme. For my video today, I'll be using different mediums, use colored cardstocks, and use my scraps because with every card I make, I always end up with scraps. On our winter cards, who doesn't love to put some snow? And there are many products in the market for making snow, but today I'll make my own. I'll start with this blue scrap of paper on which I'm using an embossing pen. It is just for a comparison of the difference between the two kinds of embossing. I'll use this opaque white embossing powder by Wow. And first I'll heat emboss my squiggly line. And though it is great, I need some texture, so I use a fine tip bottle to squeeze out my glue. I'm using a clear drying craft glue. I will show you another example, but I think all kind of clear drying glues will work for this technique. Then I put embossing powder over my glue. And then with the heat tool I melt it. And now do you see the texture? The glue is a little wet right now, but in few seconds it will dry. And here is another craft glue, and let's see how it performs and will it give the same look. I'm going to spread this glue a little more for a snowbank effect. And then once we heat set it, this looks beautiful. You can also do another layer of embossing. It may look that a lot of embossing powder is being used, but actually it's very less. And even though I emboss heavy, my most loved clear embossing powder is still not over, even after 4 years of usage. So this will keep your winters snowy for long. Let's make some snow for a cute scene. I'm using a scrap of white cardstock to make my snow banks. I apply glue to the area where I want my snow, and on that I pour some Wow embossing powder, the white opaque. And as earlier, when I heat emboss it, you can see the texture on the paper changing. And I like the way the glue marks also create irregular, bumpy texture. Then I use some snowdrift dies to create my snowy hills, and then cut them out with a square die. For my card, I am using a dark blue colored A2 sized cardstock, and I create a window with the smaller die than I used for my snowdrifts. Then I adhere the snow banks with glue on the inside of the card with a slight overlap. And then I close it with the scrap paper, which is quite like a butter paper, so that the inside layer doesn't stick on the blue cardstock. For my snowy scene, I have colored and fussy cut these cute critters from MFT's Better Together set. And for the sentiment, I'm going to use Friends Forever. And I plan to white heat emboss it. And as I stamp it with Versamark, I notice that I have stamped it a little wonky. And so let's do the old trick of covering up a mistake. And I stamp my sentiment on a white strip of paper with black ink. And these strips are also some scrap pieces that I always save from my projects because they are always useful for such accidents. I adhere my trees and the cute fox and the bird with glue on my snowbanks, and the sentiment on foam tape. And here is a little cute scene with textured snowy banks. I hope you like it and are inspired to take out your colored cardstock for creating little scenes like this one with your own snow. I have another idea for using the self-made snow for a holiday card. How often do you stamp on colored cardstock? I'm using a beige colored cardstock for this card, and I'm sorry I missed the part where I stamped these pine cones, but I've used vintage photo distress oxide ink to stamp these two cones. And then I take masking paper and make two masks to mask my pine cones to stamp the leaves. I arrange my leaves, and then to stamp I'm using the teal color, and because I want some more leaves I use this acetate to position the stamps at the right place, which also helps me to position them right and not let the ink get transferred to the paper. Then I take my fine tip glue applicator and apply glue at the little gaps on the cones to give a look of snow on them. Then I put the same wow embossing powder on the glue, and with my heat tool I heat set it, and you can see the texture coming into form. And it looks like the snow has gotten into the crevices of the pine cone. After the stamping is done, I have taken Altenews mix and match frame die set. For a deckled edge effect on my card, I cut out the paper with this die. And then I use vintage photo distress oxide and go through the edges of my card for a vintagey look. I have taken holiday wishes from the same stamp set for the sentiment, and I stamp it with the same brown ink. And to finish it off, I am going to use double-sided tape and adhere this card panel over a top folding A2 sized dark brown colored card base. And here is a card which is clean and simple and in a vintagey look, with our simple snow that was easy to make at no extra expense. If you're enjoying this video and are new to my channel, I'd love if you'd subscribe and also go through my channel for other easy card making techniques and ideas to use your stash differently. I'm sure you'll love them. My next card is one of the easiest and a great design for making cards in bulk. I'm using a beautiful teal colored cardstock, and you will notice that this technique will look beautiful with any dark colored cardstock that you may have. I'm using Stampers Anonymous Tree Line Rubber Stamp by Tim Holtz, and I'll use the largest stamp and stamp it on the bottom edge of my cardstock with Versamark. And I'm again very sorry for missing to record that part. And over the stamped image I used clear embossing powder, and then I heat set it. And do you see how just Versamark and clear embossing powder has changed the color of the cardstock, and it makes it look so dramatic. I'm going to keep it clean and simple and just stamp Happy New Year and heat emboss it in gold to maintain its elegance and beauty. I had used the stamping platform to stamp the image. You can stamp multiples with it at same go and then heat emboss them together for some quick mass production. For my next card, I am using waffle flower small snowflake dies, and I am using a cardstock from my use the backside of these papers stash, and I'll cut out my snowflakes from the white cardstock and create a small sticky plate by putting some tape on a scrap paper. And to emboss my snowflakes, I press them on my sticky Versamark ink. And make sure to cover all the areas, and then I put silver embossing powder over it. Tap it and gently pick it up and put it on my sticky paper and press it firmly but gently for the snowflake to get stuck onto the cardstock. And then I get my heat tool to emboss it. And just like this, I will do the same step 2 more times to get a beautifully embossed snowflake. This snowflake will be the O of my joy. So after I emboss the other snowflakes, I also take J and Y from the Mighty Alphabet die set by Altenew and die cut them twice from the same white cardstock. And before I emboss them, I adhere both the letters and then apply Versamark on them. And just like how we did the snowflakes, I heat emboss them in silver embossing powder. For the silver letters, I plan to use maroon cardstock as my card panel, and I get some texture from the Simon Says Stamps Detailed Swirls plate by running it through my die cutting machine. With the silver die cuts ready, it's time to assemble the card. I'm going to stack my 3 die cut snowflakes to give more texture to the snowflake, and then take a foam pad and press this round edge of a pen to make the snowflake more dimensional so that when it's on the cardstock, it pops up. I adhere my maroon cardstock with double-sided strong tape on a white card base. And then for my die cut letters, I align them on my craft mat. Then I pick them up with washi tape, apply glue to the back side of the die cuts, and adhere it on my maroon card base. I let it dry and then remove it once it has dried. And here you have drama of red and silver and a clean design for a Christmas card. Just extra coats of embossing powder and a dark colored cardstock can make a card look elegant and pretty. For my last card, I'm going to use Faber Castell's Glass bead gel, which is one of my favorite pastes, and it looks stunning on dark colored cardstock. I'll be using Simon Hurley's Sweater Weather stencil. I adhere my black card base behind the stencil with the help of washi tape and make sure that it's straight. Then I apply the glass bead gel with the help of a spatula. This stencil is a gift from a crafty friend from Spain, Mariska, whom I met virtually because of her lovely comments on my YouTube channel. This gel is quite old too, but I use a plastic wrap around it after I have used it, and luckily it is not dried. I gently take off the stencil, and you can scrape off the gel from the stencil and put it back, or press the stencil to get a negative impression of it. It will not be as clean as the first impression, but the glitter will be pretty. I keep my panel to dry overnight, and then for making a card, I cut it so that I get a white border of my white cardstock, which will be behind. And I have these beautiful Unicorn Magic Sparkles by Crafty Meraki, which will look beautiful as the center of this pretty design. I take a strong glue and adhere the bigger sequins in the center of the bigger motifs and the smaller ones inside the smaller designs. For the sentiment, I've stamped 2, and I wasn't sure which to use, but to make the card look pretty and let all the sparkles be seen, I'll use the slim Happy New Year sentiment, which is white embossing on black strip of paper, and then I adhere it with foam tape. And ta-da! Here is another gorgeous card, so simple but so dramatic with the colored card base. I hope you liked all these ideas, and to see more of them, check the description box for the next person in the hop. All the supplies are listed in the description box. When we're available, I have used compensated affiliate links, which means if you make a purchase, I receive a small commission at no extra cost to you. Thank you so much for your support, and please don't forget to tell me which card is your favorite in the comments below. I'll be glad to know what my viewers like the most. Wishing you a holiday season full of warmth, love, and a lot of crafty time. Take care. Bye-bye.